They say no one is ever prepared to be humiliated by the person they love most. But no one warned me that life's harshest blow could come in the form of a glass of orange juice, cold, sticky, running down my face in front of all my relatives. To this day, I don't know what hurt more, the silence that followed or my daughter Jessica's nervous laugh. All I know is that everything changed that stifling Sunday afternoon at my sister Martha's house when I finally said no to the woman I raised on my own. My name is Donna Parker. I'm 68 years old, and I never imagined I'd live to become a walking ATM for my only daughter. Not for lack of effort or love. Jessica lost her father early. Pancreatic cancer, a brutal diagnosis. She was only 6. She grew up seeing a tired mother who taught children the alphabet by day and at night sewed for extra money, sold sweets around the neighborhood, and still found time to read bedtime stories. Also, my daughter would never feel her father's absence as a sentence. Maybe that's why I always gave in too much. Jessica grew up beautiful, full of wants, ambitious. I wanted her to shine, but it was my fault I never taught her the value of earning things for herself. By 17, she was using my credit card as if it were hers, because all the other girls had one. At 23, she maxed it out twice in a month to travel to New York, but I chose to patch up the mess instead of setting a limit. Now she's 38, and nothing has changed. She still asks, demands, yells when I say I can't. The only difference is that now she humiliates me. That Sunday, the whole family was gathered. Siblings, nieces, distant uncles. It was Cousin Charles's birthday, always hosted in my sister's backyard. Barbecue, old country music, a generous table, that mix of warmth and competitiveness you find in a big Southern family. Every year, Jessica arrived late, high heels, styled hair, designer clothes, sunglasses, as if coming from a gala event. I'd already noticed her impatience when she pulled me into the kitchen the moment she arrived. "Mom, where's the card?" she asked bluntly, tossing her purse on the counter. "It's here." I took it from my wallet and handed it over, feeling that familiar lump in my throat. "And the pin?" Jessica whispered, with that look of disdain. "Jessica, No, not today. I already paid for everything for the party, and I helped you with rent this month. I need a break." Her eyes hardened, lips pressing into a thin line. "Oh, Mom, how selfish," she said, loud enough for everyone in the living room to hear. "I just want to buy a decent gift for Charles. Do you want me to be embarrassed? Everyone knows you just hoard money because you're stingy." I felt everyone's gaze pierce through me. Silence fell, heavy, broken only by the sizzle of meat on the grill. I tried to respond, but my voice didn't come. That's when Jessica picked up the glass of juice from the counter, looked me in the eye, and poured the cold liquid over my face. Time froze. The juice ran through my hair, stained my white blouse, slid down to my heart, which was beating fast. No one moved. My sister covered her mouth. A cousin pulled her kids away. Jessica looked at me with contempt, as if she'd taught me a lesson. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to go back and do everything differently. But standing there, in the middle of that ugly scene, I could only think about everything I sacrificed to raise this woman. Everything I gave up, being, having, living, just so she'd never feel less than anyone else. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, slowly. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just looked her in the eyes and saw, maybe for the first time, that strange mix of arrogance and insecurity. Jessica wanted to win, wanted to show the world she had power over me. And I understood. This was the last straw. Rock bottom. I left the kitchen in silence, feeling the juice dry on my face, my blouse sticking to my skin. I walked down the hallway with my head held high, but inside I was hollow. In the bathroom, I looked at myself in the mirror. Hair stuck to my forehead, skin red, the sour smell of orange juice, and then, unexpectedly, I caught myself with a crooked smile. Because after a lifetime of being stepped on, humiliated in silence, I knew, never again. No one would ever make me feel that small again. When I returned to the living room, everyone pretended nothing had happened. Jessica was already chatting with the cousins, as if nothing was wrong. I sat on the porch in silence, watching the world move on. My sister came over with a napkin. "Donna, if you want, stay at my place tonight. You don't deserve this." I nodded, grateful. That day, I realized, sometimes you need to be humiliated to wake up. And in that exact moment, a new chapter in my life was about to begin. If you've ever been through something similar, or know someone who needs to hear this story, share it, comment below. And if you want to hear even more powerful stories, ad-free, join the VIP group through the link in the pinned comment. Little did I know just how much that day of shame would turn into pride. The citrus scent of juice still lingered in the air, reminding me of the bitter taste of everything I had silently endured. I slept poorly, hearing the echoes of laughter and the scandal my daughter caused in front of everyone. I felt an old shame, but also something new, a slow burning indignation, like embers under ashes. I went home early, hands trembling, heart tight. I entered quietly and found her sprawled on the couch, still in her robe, her phone glowing in the dark. "What now?" Jessica asked, eyes glued to her screen. "Here to get your card back, is that it?" I stopped in the hallway, trying to find the strength to answer without crying. "I'm just here to get a few things, and your purse doesn't have the card anymore." She let out a dry laugh. "Congratulations. Gonna leave me broke? What do you think I am, a child? You think you can just turn your back on me after everything I've done for you?" That phrase stung. How many times over the years had I heard that everything I achieved was owed to her? How many times did I skip a coffee or a new dress so she could buy whatever she wanted? I took a deep breath. "Jessica, you're an adult now. You need to understand the world won't always cheer for you. It's past time to take care of your own bills." She rolled her eyes, slowly got up, dragging her robe across the carpet. "Here we go. I worked my whole life, I sacrificed, blah, blah, blah. It's exhausting, Mom, seriously. And you don't get tired of treating me like a bank? Oh, please!" She exploded, stomping her foot. "You like to pay. You love playing the Good Samaritan, feeling needed. What would you do if I stopped asking? You'd die of boredom in this house." I felt my face grow hot, but I didn't back down. "I survived before you were born, Jessica, and I'll survive without you if I have to." "Enough drama, Mom," she said, heading toward her room. "You know what? I'll call Mark today. I'll spend a few days at his place, get my life together, and leave you alone with your precious money." I heard her words cut like knives, but I forced myself to stay firm. "Do that. But know this, the door is always open for respect, not abuse." She stopped in the hallway, turning sideways, her eyes hard. "You think I'll grovel for money?" she whispered bitterly. "I can get what I need without your help, Mrs. Donna." We stood there in silence, tension filling every inch. She went into her room and slammed the door, the sound echoing through the house. I sat alone in the living room, hands cold, chest aching. I spent the morning organizing closets, trying to find some sign in the routine that life would fall back into place. But all I saw were reminders of years of sacrifice. The picture frame with our first day of school, the yellow dress I made for her prom, the rug I bought with my first paycheck. The day dragged on. Jessica didn't leave her room. From time to time, I heard her laughing loudly on the phone, talking about parties and trips, like everything was a competition to see who had more, who spent more. I got a message from Martha, my sister. "Donna, you were strong, don't give in. She'll learn eventually." I replied simply, "I need to be strong for myself." Late in the afternoon, I heard the door open. Jessica came out quickly, suitcase in hand, hair messy, her expression hard. "I'm leaving. Don't wait up. If you need to talk, you know where to find me." She hesitated for a second, but kept moving. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and felt a mix of relief and guilt. I went to the hallway mirror, looked at my own face, tired, yes, but alive. And I promised myself, I will never again accept being mistreated, not even by those I love. If you've ever been through something like this, comment below. And subscribe to the channel. The next part of this story will show you what no one expects from a mother. That night, I wrote in my journal, "Dignity has no price, and today I bought mine back." The silence that night weighed on me like never before. It was as if every object in the house, the worn living room rug, the old wall clock, the chipped cup on the sideboard, had heard everything. For the first time in many years, I felt an emptiness so deep it hurt to breathe. Jessica's absence was loud. I wandered from room to room, remembering little things, her childhood laughter squeezing lemons in the kitchen, the scoldings that became jokes after dinner, the sound of her heels echoing down the hall as she rushed out to parties. All of it felt distant now, as if my own story belonged to someone else. At breakfast, I found myself sitting alone at the table. Stale bread, coffee gone cold. The news in the background spoke of inflation, crisis, words that once worried me, but now only made the echo of abandonment louder. My cell phone vibrated. Foolish hope. It wasn't a message from my daughter, but from the bank. Another charge on her card, even though she wasn't home. I looked at my balance, saw the damage, closed my eyes, and held back tears. I thought about years of hard work, double shifts cleaning offices, afternoons sewing for neighbors to pay Jessica's school, birthdays I spent alone just to afford her expensive gifts. I always believed love justified any sacrifice. That morning, I started to doubt. The phone rang again. It was Martha, my sister, always tuned to the slightest sadness in my voice. "Donna, did you sleep?" "Barely," I admit. "Don't go back on your decision, okay? Just because she's your daughter doesn't mean she can use you. You're not alone." "It hurts, Martha. I won't lie. I feel like I failed. Her father wouldn't have let this happen. You did more than any mother would, Donna. Now, let her grow up." I hung up, chest tight. I went for a walk around the block just to breathe. On the corner, I ran into Mrs. Ruth, my longtime neighbor. "Everything all right, Donna? I haven't seen Jessica lately." "She's figuring her life out, Ruth. Growing up." She smiled sadly. "We only learn to grow when we miss the hand that used to hold ours. Remember that." I went back home deep in thought. I sat on the sofa, picked up my journal, and wrote, with shaky handwriting. "Today, silence screams louder than yesterday's juice, but maybe it's in this silence that I'll finally hear myself again." Late in the afternoon, when I least expected it, I got a call from the cleaning office where I sometimes pick up extra work. "Donna, there's a shift tomorrow. Can you take it?" "Of course, thank you." I answered without hesitation. I still needed the work, but this time I felt proud to chase what was mine. Not for Jessica, but for myself. At night, my phone finally buzzed with a message from my daughter. "Can you loan me money for college? Mark can't help right now." I looked at the screen. I didn't answer. I turned off the lights and decided, tonight, I am my own priority. If you believe that a mother's love doesn't mean accepting everything in silence, leave a comment. That night, the silence in my house finally brought peace. Not the peace I wanted, but the one I needed. The weeks that followed were a bitter lesson in absence. Jessica disappeared. Not a single call. Not even a message asking if I was okay. What did arrive were bills. Her purchases kept showing up on my card, even after the juice, even after everything. It was as if my daughter had put my dignity on autopilot. On the second Saturday of that emptiness, I woke up early, feeling my chest tight and the house colder than ever. Weak sunlight filtered through the window. I made strong coffee, put on my apron, and went to clean Dr. Regina's apartment, my oldest client. When I finished, I sat down for a glass of water, and she, noticing my exhaustion, asked, "Are you all right, Donna? You look worn out." "Just a bit tired, doctor. Sometimes life gets heavy." She smiled kindly and offered me a slice of lemon cake. "You're one of the strongest women I know. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, all right?" I went home with that phrase echoing in my mind. I opened the closet, took out old photos, and leafed through memories of Jessica's childhood. Gappy smiles, her first backpack, her 6th birthday with chocolate cake and friends. I felt a mix of longing and indignation. Where did I go wrong? Why did she grow up thinking love was the same as easy money? The intercom rang. It startled me. It was Jessica at the gate. She had no suitcase, no apologetic look. She got straight to the point. "I need money, Mom. Mark left me. I can't even pay the rent. Are you just going to let me end up on the street?" Her tone was demanding, not asking. My heart hurt, but my voice came out firm. "Jessica, I have never turned my back on you. But that's enough. No amount of money will fix this emptiness you feel." "So that's it?" she screamed, right there in the street. "Either you help me, or I'll never speak to you again." Some neighbors looked over, surprised. I wanted to hug her, to say everything would be all right. But her words were too sharp. "You don't talk to me anymore, Jessica. You only come to me when you need money. I'm a mother, not an ATM." She turned red, eyes filling with tears. Not of pain, but of anger. "You always play the victim, Mom. You owe me. I only have you." I swallowed my tears. "I gave you everything. Education, a roof, love, food. What I didn't give you was the right to disrespect me." Jessica turned away and walked off quickly, slamming the gate. I stood there, knees weak, listening to the echo of her footsteps fade down the street. That night, I sat on the porch and listened to the distant sound of cars, the smell of fresh bread from the neighborhood bakery. I cried quietly, but it was a different kind of crying. It wasn't just sadness, it was freedom. Deep in that night, for the first time, I began to imagine who I could be if I stopped carrying the weight of the world on my own. It's never easy to say no to your own child, especially when everything life taught you was to survive and protect the ones you love. The next morning, I woke up like someone who survived a storm, tired, but clean. I took a long shower, made a point of preparing my coffee slowly, changed clothes, and went to work with my head held high. On my way to work, my thoughts kept circling back to the scene from the night before. I kept repeating to myself, I am not guilty. I'm not a bad mother for wanting peace. My phone rang. It was the bank manager. Mrs. Donna, good morning. I need to confirm a suspicious withdrawal attempt on your card. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't authorize anything, ma'am. Don't worry. I've temporarily blocked your PIN. I recommend you come in and change everything. After my shift, I went to the bank, feeling a sting of humiliation, but also a sense of relief. No more letting Jessica take advantage of my goodwill. I canceled cards, changed passwords, talked to the manager. It was a ritual of saying goodbye to the past. On my way out, I found myself standing in front of a fabric shop. Those colorful displays had always caught my eye. I went in on a whim. I touched the fabrics, sat down to chat with the saleswoman, who turned out to be the owner, a woman named Sonia. I've never seen you here before, she said. I used to clean houses, but I'm looking to do something new. Do you know how to sew? I learned from my mother when I was a girl. Sonia smiled. If you want, come help me out in the afternoons. I have way too many orders and not enough hands. I can't pay much, but here you're respected. I accepted right away. I went home with a strange feeling, a mix of fear and excitement. For the first time in many years, I saw a light at the end of the tunnel. A chance to be valued for who I am, not for the money I have in the bank. That week, I cut off contact with Jessica. The messages kept coming, all demanding, never asking. I deleted them without answering. One day, Sonia brought me a fresh cup of coffee. Some people only learn to value you when they feel your absence. Silence is the biggest no we can give. Working with fabrics brought back childhood memories, the simplicity of days before the chaos, before everything became a burden. Over time, I started to feel like I belonged there, getting to know the customers, hearing stories similar to mine. On Saturday, I was surprised. Donna, could you do me a favor? Show the ladies how you sew that beautiful trim on sheets? When I finished, I heard sincere applause. I felt such a powerful emotion, so different from the emptiness of the past few weeks, that I cried right there, not from sadness, but from joy. It was as if my soul, suffocated for so long, finally had room to breathe. And in that atmosphere of rebirth, on an ordinary afternoon, Jessica showed up at the shop. She saw me smiling, working, surrounded by people who admired me. And in her eyes, for the first time, I saw something new, surprise, and maybe, just maybe, the beginnings of respect. That Sunday, I woke up early to the soft sound of rain tapping at the window. It was my day off, but my mind spun restlessly, caught between Jessica's absence and the newness of the shop. The kitchen, once full of voices and demands from other times, was now filled only with the aroma of fresh coffee and simple orange cake, just the way I liked it. It felt strange not waiting for anyone, not making double coffee, not setting the table for two. The emptiness of the house felt, at the same time, like freedom and loneliness. The phone stayed silent all day. No requests, no demands, no apologies. In the early afternoon, I put on a raincoat, grabbed an umbrella, and went for a walk around the neighborhood. At the park, I saw mothers playing with small children, young couples arguing about nothing, elderly people chatting at the gazebo. I felt a pang of longing, not just for Jessica's childhood, but for my own youth, for the dreams I left behind to be everything she needed. Passing by the market, I ran into Mrs. Elizabeth, an old neighbor, who looked me in the eyes and said, "I haven't seen you smile in a long time, Donna." "I'm learning again, Mrs. Elizabeth. You deserve more than you think. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Back at the shop on Monday, Sonia noticed my quiet mood and didn't ask anything. She just left a cup of tea at my side. In the afternoon, between one cut of fabric and the next, she commented, "When we change, those who were used to our yes suffer more than we do. Stay strong." In the days that followed, Jessica disappeared from my life. Her friends started asking me at the market, on social media, "Did you and Jessica have a fight? She's been telling people you abandoned her." I was swept by a wave of guilt, but then I thought, I was here my whole life. I was the one who was abandoned, disrespected, used. I'm not feeding that guilt anymore. On Saturday, Sonia asked me to stay late to help with a sewing class for local women. When I finished teaching, one of the students, a young mother named Rita, came up to me, moved. "Mrs. Donna, it's been so long since I felt this good about myself. Thank you for sharing this with us." I came home that night exhausted, but with a light heart. I made soup, opened an old book, and for the first time in years, I slept deeply. No fear, no urgent phone calls, no demands. The next morning, a message arrived. "Mom, I need to talk." And for the first time, I didn't panic. I felt only a mature calm, because now I knew I was in control of my own life. Jessica showed up at the house late in the afternoon, her face swollen from crying, but still trying to keep up a proud front. She didn't bring flowers, nor apologies. She wore expensive clothes, heavy makeup, and her eyes were hard, full of wounded pride. I was on the porch, watering the violets, when she walked in. "Mom, can you stop pretending everything's fine?" were the first words out of her mouth, sharp as a blade. "Jessica, come in. Sit down. Let's talk like two adults," I replied, trying to stay calm. She threw her purse on the couch, looked around, scanning the house as if to measure my newfound strength. "Everyone knows about the juice," she said, biting her lip. "You embarrassed me, Mom." "I didn't embarrass anyone. I just stopped accepting what I don't deserve." Jessica scoffed. "Look, I was upset that day, but you didn't have to humiliate me in front of the whole family. And you thought it was fair to throw juice in my face? To humiliate the person who raised you alone, who worked until her hands cracked to give you everything?" She looked away, hesitating for the first time, but she didn't apologize. "I'm out of money, Mom," she muttered. "I can't pay the card this month. I need you to help me, just this once." The pain hit like a knife, not just because of the nerve, but the coldness. I felt anger, sadness, and a nearly dark pride at finally seeing what had taken me years to realize. "Jessica, you're 30 now. I did everything for you, and maybe that was my mistake. I never taught you how to say no. I always protected you from the world, but now you need to learn to protect yourself and to respect me." She laughed, without humor. "So you're just going to leave me out on the street? I'm giving you what you always asked for, Jessica. The freedom to choose, even to make mistakes. And if I fall apart, I'll be here. But I'm not your ATM. I'm your mother, not your employee. If you want to talk, to really talk, my door is open. But don't come only when you need money." The silence was heavy, but not cruel. Jessica stood, walked to the door, and turned. For the first time, I saw a childlike fear in her eyes, the same look she had when she lost her father, but now mixed with adult pride. "You've changed, Mom." I had to change, so I wouldn't disappear from myself. She left, slamming the door. I stayed there, smelling the lavender drifting in through the window, knowing the wound was deep, but the courage to close that chapter was even greater. If you've ever had to break with someone you love just to protect yourself, share in the comments, and remember, your dignity is your greatest treasure. Night fell, but for the first time, even with my heart aching, I felt that something inside me was finally whole. The silence that morning was cruel. It wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that screams, echoing every harsh word from the night before. The house felt enormous, empty, as if every wall had heard the humiliation and was now shrinking, ashamed for me. I wandered through the rooms in slow motion. I felt in my chest the question that had haunted me for years. How did I end up here? I had become mother and father, bank, babysitter, maid, confidant, everything except myself. I let the coffee grow cold on the table. I stared at the phone, hoping for a call, a message, an apology, anything. But nothing came. There was no one left to save, except myself. I sat down on the kitchen floor, hugged my knees, and cried like I hadn't cried since my husband died. It was anger, yes, but also mourning for what would never come back. The illusion that love, just love, is enough to raise someone right. That's when Lucia showed up, unannounced. She didn't bring bread or flowers. She came in, saw my state, and sat down next to me on the floor, just like in the old days, when we were young and the world seemed less cruel. "You know, Donna, you stopped living for yourself a long time ago," she said, looking into my eyes with no pity. "It's not your daughter's fault that she's alone in this. You fed this monster with every concession, every silence." It hurt to hear that, but it was the raw truth. Lucia pulled me up off the floor and made me promise out loud that I would never again let anyone, not Jessica, not fear, not guilt, rob me of my dignity. In the afternoon, we went out, not for a stroll, but to face the world. We went to the bank. I canceled extra cards, changed my passwords, opened an account just for me. We went to the salon. I cut my hair short, took years off my shoulders. When I got back home, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized that woman with the fierce eyes and lifted chin. As night fell, I sat on the porch alone. The pain was still there, but so was a new rage, a strength I'd forgotten I had. I wrote, on a piece of notebook paper, the new rules of my life. None were for Jessica. They were for me. If you've ever felt like your home became a prison, comment below. Like and share this story. Maybe someone needs to hear that it's possible to break the cycle. That night, I didn't cry. I roared, even if only in silence, because only those who have hit rock bottom know what freedom really tastes like. It was a week of rebuilding, and at the same time, an internal battle. The phone would ring, and I'd look at the screen but wouldn't answer. Jessica sent messages, sometimes cold, sometimes dramatic, trying to make me feel guilty. "Mom, are you really going to leave me like this?" Or, "I just needed some time to figure things out. You know how I am." But this time, every phrase bounced right back. I was no longer that woman who blamed herself for everything. I went to the farmer's market alone for the first time in years, not rushing to buy the treats Jessica always wanted. I walked through the flower section, saw a pot of orchids, and thought of bringing it home. Not to impress anyone, just because I wanted to. I felt like laughing when I saw a package of lemon cookies. I picked one up, looked at it, and put it back on the shelf. Not anymore. On my way out, I ran into Mrs. Lucy, my neighbor for years, who always thought I was strong. "You've been missing, Donna," she said. "Now, more present than ever," I replied with a firm smile. At home, I started cleaning out the closets. I got rid of old things, clothes I only kept because Jessica asked me to. I opened the windows, let the breeze in, cleaned every corner of the house as if I were cleaning old wounds. On the radio, the song I used to listen to in high school was playing, and for the first time, I danced alone in the living room, feeling the floor, feeling my body, feeling that I still existed. At the end of the day, Jessica showed up. She came in like a hurricane, voice loud, slamming doors, trying to impose that authority that only ever worked because I allowed it. "Mom, I need the card. You can't leave me like this. Are you really going to refuse to help me after everything?" I looked at her. The juice was still a stain in my memory, but there was no anger, just a strange compassion and a wall. "Jessica, the pin is mine, and so is my life. If you want something, you'll have to earn it. I'm not an ATM anymore, or a wall for you to punch when you're frustrated. In this house now, there are rules and respect. Sit and eat with me if you want, but emotional blackmail doesn't work anymore." She was silent. For a second, I saw the scared little girl I once raised, hiding behind the arrogant woman she had learned to be. I also saw my own reflection in that fragility, and understood that saying no was, finally, an act of love, for me and for her. Jessica left, slamming the door, but didn't take anything but her wounded pride. I stayed in the silence, not crying, not trembling. I just breathed deeply, as if feeling the house and my life coming back into my own hands. If you've ever had to say no to someone you love, comment here, and share this story to show that respect isn't asked for, it's demanded. I ended that day with a cup of tea, sitting on the porch, listening to the world outside, feeling a new space inside me, the space for no. It was small, but it was mine, and at that moment, I knew I would never give it up again. The house was strangely quiet in the days that followed, but it was no longer the heavy silence of submission. It was the silence of newfound freedom. I walked through every room without fear of being questioned or judged. Little by little, I started reclaiming each space. The couch, now with my favorite pillows, the kitchen, filled with my pots and the smell of freshly brewed coffee, no longer needing to please anyone but myself. Jessica avoided me. Sometimes she would call from work, always with some flimsy excuse, always circling around the topic of money, but never brave enough to ask directly. I responded politely, but stayed firm in my position. For the first time, saying no didn't feel heavy or painful. It felt natural and powerful. I went back to small pleasures I'd abandoned. I signed up for a painting class, made friends with women my age, went to the movies alone. At the neighborhood club, I reconnected with old coworkers and for the first time in decades, accepted an invitation to a dinner just for me. It wasn't rebellion, it was recovery. It was me, Donna, finally discovering I deserved more than I had ever received. One afternoon, I found a letter from Jessica in the mailbox. It was short, handwritten, the words shaky. Mom, I don't know if you'll forgive me. I felt anger, shame, and I still do. But I wanted to say I understand your no. And I'm not ready to apologize yet, but I want you to know I'm trying. I know I never gave you peace. I just want you to be happy. Jessica. I read the letter 3 times, each reading lifting a weight from my chest. I didn't cry. I smiled. The first step was hers. The journey would be walked from both sides, with limits, respect, and time. Little by little, Jessica started to change. She sent quick messages, sometimes shared work news, asked for recipes, asked for advice, without asking for anything else. It was strange, and good. Money was no longer the main subject. It was as if, by letting go of my role as her ATM, she finally saw me as her mother. I was learning how to be the mother of an adult, and she, the daughter of a woman who says no. In the community, my example became a topic among the neighbors. Other mothers, other daughters began to open up. We shared our pains, our victories, and above all, our courage. One day I hosted a tea at home, just for women. We laughed about small victories, cried a little, and toasted to the right of being the owners of our own lives. If you've ever been through something like this, comment here and share with someone who needs the strength to put themselves first. Let's show that sometimes saying no is the greatest act of love. That evening, watching the sunset from the porch, I realized I lost my fear of losing my daughter because I finally stopped losing myself. The pin, the juice in my face, the pain, all of it became a bridge to something bigger. Dignity, respect, self-love. No one can ever take that away from me. And if someone ever asks too much from you, remember, sometimes the greatest gift we can give those we love is teaching them the value of limits.